So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you everything that you need to know about HTML to get started building simple web pages. So I want you to code along with me. So open up your text editor and have that ready, because this is going to be the type of walkthrough where you actually have to type the code along with me so that you better understand what's going on. HTML. What is HTML? HTML, the acronym stands for Hypertext Markup Language. That's not something that you have to memorize, but something that you do have to understand is HTML is not a programming language. It is a markup language. And what's markup? Markup is how you describe content or information to the browser. If you don't know what a browser is just what you use to surf the web. So think Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Safari, all of those are browsers. So HTML is what you use to describe the content that you want to display on the browser. So let's get started building our first HTML page. The first thing that I want you to do is to create a new folder on your computer. I'm using a Mac, so I'm just going to right click and click this new folder button, and I'm going to name it HTML project, HTML-project. Boom. If I open this folder, it doesn't have anything in it. So now I'm going to use my text editor, and I use VS Code. If you don't have a text editor already, I'm going to include a link below for VS Code, or you can just Google VS Code and just download that. But I'll include a link below. I'm going to open my text editor, VS Code, and I'm going to use the text editor to open this folder. Now, a text editor is what you use to write code. So that's why I'm going to open my text editor and use that to now open this folder. I'm just going to click off this welcome screen, and I'm going to go up here to File, Open Folder. And I'm going to go to my desktop and open up this HTML project. So open. So now you should see the name of your folder on this left hand side. You see that? HTML project. So up next, we have to create our HTML file, because HTML is a document, right? It is a document. So you have to create an HTML file where you're going to write the HTML code on for the browser to process. So again, I'm just going to click off this welcome and just show you how to actually do this in your text editor. Now, it doesn't matter what text editor you use, whether it's VS Code or Sublime Text, the steps are the exact same. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to New File. You see the option here, New File. And this is where you type the name of the file. The home page of every single website, meaning the main file, is always called index, INDEX. So the file name is going to be index, and you have to put the HTML file extension. So you know how if you have an image, right, you know, the typical image extension is .jpeg. When you're writing code for an HTML file, the file extension is .html. So I'm going to write index.html and press enter. Right, so you see that'll now put save as index.html, and it's going to be saving it into my folder here. So I'm going to create file, and boom. So now you should see this index.html on this left hand side of your actual folder, like inside of your folder. When it comes to HTML, every single HTML file is going to have the exact same template, and I'm going to walk you through that now. So make sure that you type along here. So I'm going to do this less than sign, exclamation mark, and all caps doc type. And then I'm going to go to lowercase HTML. So this here, this is telling the browser that we want to create a new document type. What type of document type do we want to create? An HTML document. That's it. So don't forget this exclamation mark up here, all right? So doc type HTML. So now we need to actually open our HTML file in terms of where we're going to write the code. So just type after me, and I'll explain this as we go. So less than sign HTML. All right, so this is what's called an opening tag. So HTML uses tags, and the tags are this less than sign, greater than sign. And then you write the name of the tag between the less than and the greater than. So you see, this is an HTML tag. and we are writing the name of the tag between that less than sign and greater than sign. Now, something that you have to keep in mind is HTML has a tag for every single type of information that you want to create. So if you want to display text or an image, there's an image tag, etc. But we'll touch on that later. So in HTML, most tags are going to have an opening tag and a closing tag. The difference between the two is this is the opening tag and this is the closing tag. And I'm sure that you can already spot the difference. The closing tag is always going to start with a /. So this right here is a / because the slash is leaning forward. All right. So in HTML, almost every single tag is going to have an opening tag and a closing tag. And the way that you write the closing tag is with a / at the very beginning before you write the name of the tag. So now we are telling the browser, hey, we want to create a new document type. And the document type we want to create is an HTML document. And now we have opened up our HTML document. So all our code is going to keep getting nested inside of this HTML tag now. All right. So next up, HTML has two parts, the head and the body, sort of like a human being, right? So let's just create our head tag, and this has an opening and a closing tag. So type this along. Our head tag it's called that head. So we have our opening head tag and we have our closing head tag noted by this / here. So put your cursor between these two and press enter so that you can have this space between, because the main content inside of the head tag is going to be the title tag. Remember when I said HTML is a document? So you know how when you're back in school and you're writing a paper, your paper has a title. This HTML document has a title. This is where you put the name of the document. All right, so we are going to put our opening and closing title tag here. So let's do title and boom. Then my autocomplete is putting my ending tags for me, right? So this is our title tag. And I'm just going to put my cursor between and press enter to create this space. So I'm just going to call this HTML tutorial. Between the opening and closing tag, that's where you put the actual content that's going to be displayed. Now, this title tag is not actually displayed on your website. It is displayed on the browser tab. So you know how when you're on a website and you have different like tabs for the browser, kind of like this is where the title tag is going to be shown. Here, let me show you that example real quick. So if I open up Google Chrome, so you see how up here it says new tab? This is the title tag. So anything that you write inside of the title tag is going to show up on the actual tab in the browser like this. All right. So the title element is the main tag inside of our head tag. So now let me just kind of further explain things. So remember, HTML has an opening tag and a closing tag. And then inside of the opening and closing tag is where you put the actual content. So this text, HTML tutorial, this is the content. The combination of the opening and the closing tag makes what we call an HTML element. So that now becomes an element. So this is the title tag, but you can also call it the title element. But this is an HTML element. All right. If you're watching this video, that means you're interested in learning to code and making a career switch to becoming a software engineer. And that's exactly what I did. My name is TJ Oyeniyi, and I'm a self-taught software engineer that still works as a software engineer while teaching complete beginners like yourself how to code and help them to get jobs as software engineers by working with them as their mentor. To learn more about working with me as your mentor, check out my coding bootcamp, Roots Technology. I'll put the link in the description below as well. So inside of our head, we are going to have our title and then write the actual title of the web page that we are building. Keep in mind, I said web page. A web page is a single page. A website is multiple web pages. So if you have two web pages, that makes a website. And remember, this title, it doesn't actually show up on the main body of the website. It just shows up in the browser tab. So where is the main content going to show? This is going to show on the body. So remember I said HTML has two parts, the head and the body, like a human being. So now outside of the head, right? Outside, you see my cursor is outside of the head. It's not inside of it. It's outside. We now need to put our body tag. So put the opening and closing body tag. So body, boom. So inside of our body, this is where the main content that people are going to see when they come to our website, this is where that content is going to be put. All right. And I'm going to walk you through the main HTML tags that you need to know, so that once you actually understand how to use these tags, it'll be very straightforward for you to work with any HTML tag out there. All right. But you see, we have our head and our body, and you can delete this space here. We don't need that. Everything now from this point forward, any content that we want users to see on our website is going to go inside of the body tag. So now I'm going to walk you through some of the main HTML tags that you are most often going to see on pretty much every single website. So headings. Almost every single website that you go to is going to have some type of heading, which is, you know how when you're writing a paper back in school and you have a paragraph, that paragraph typically has some kind of heading or like a title to it. So that is what our heading tags are. So HTML has what's called heading tags. It goes from H1 to H6. So I'm going to Google this with you so that you can start learning how to Google stuff like this on your own. So let's open up a browser tab and just type HTML headings. There we go. HTML headings, right? So keep in mind, the first thing I wrote was HTML because HTML is the technology that I'm trying to find out information about. It is the headings. I'm trying to figure out how headings work in HTML. So I'm Googling HTML headings. So press enter and let's click on this W3 Schools search result. So click on this. I like using W3 Schools simply because it has a lot of really nice visual examples to just quickly help you see what's going on with the code. So remember I said HTML has headings H1 through H6. So this is heading 1. The higher the number, the smaller the heading gets. So this is it right here. H1 to H6. So you see H1, you have the opening H1 tag and the closing H1 tag. So this code is what is displaying this in the browser. Like if you click this, try it yourself here. You see this takes you to this page. So if you change the heading 1 to this is my heading and you hit run up here, boom, it changes that to this is my heading, right? So remember the heading tags are H1 through H6. So I'm going to exit out of this. And we are going to put our own heading tag and let's do a H1. So let's put the H1, the opening and closing H1. And I'll just type a text. This is my first heading and press enter. Now, the question that you are probably having is, how do we see what this code is doing in the browser? And all you have to do is go to the folder that you made. So yeah, this HTML project folder here. So open up this folder and you see this file, the file you created. If you double click on this file, it's going to open it in the browser. Because remember, HTML is built into the browser. Like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is already in every single browser on the internet. So if I double click this now, boom, it just opened that. This is my first heading. And you see, if you look at the URL, this is coming from the file on my desktop from my HTML project, and it's simply displaying my index.html file. So you can actually copy this. I'm going to copy this so I can put this back in here, and I'm going to open a new tab and I'm going to paste this. Yeah, so you can just paste that and click enter. So now this is where all the code that that we write is going to show up. If you're learning a lot in this video, keep in mind, this is what learning to code with me as your mentor is like. Anytime you get stuck and you need help, you can schedule a Zoom call with me where we work one-on-one together on an issue like this, or you can just email me and I'll get back to you that way. But having a mentor there to guide you and ask questions to is the best way to speed up your coding journey so that you're not wasting time being stuck or working on things that don't matter. So if you're ready to start your coding journey and become a software engineer, come join me in my coding bootcamp at www.rootstechnology.info. Now, if this is not showing up for you, the reason why it's not showing up is that you probably didn't save this file. So here, I'm gonna delete this heading. So do you see up here in this tab, my cursor is up here, this tab where it says index.html. Do you see this round circle? This round circle means that I have unsaved changes in my file. That means that this file has not been saved yet. So you have to save the code that you're writing before it'll show up in the browser. How do you save? One, you can go up here and click File, Save, or when you see this shortcut here, it tells you, and this is just Command S. If you're using a Windows, it's going to be Control S, right? So if I click Save here, you see how that round circle is now gone. It's now an X. So anytime that you see this X, that means that all your changes in here have been saved. So anytime that you type something, when this dot comes back, that means you have unsaved changes. All right, so I'm gonna save this. And then whenever you wanna see whatever recent changes you've made, you just go back to this file and you refresh. You just refresh up here and boom. All right, so you have just written your first code in HTML. So good job. And I'm gonna keep showing you a lot more tags as we go, right? I'm gonna show you the main tags that you really have to know for you to understand how to work with HTML on your own moving forward, all right? Remember, we have our heading tags is H1 through 6. If we just copy this heading and we come down here and we paste it, and then we change the 1 to a 3, and we change this 1 to a 3, and remember, save it, so do Command save or Control save, and then I come here and I refresh. Boom. Do you see how this is now smaller in size, in font size than the H1? Because the higher you go, the smaller the font gets in terms of headings. So H1 is the main heading on your web page. Don't confuse this with the title. Remember, this title tag up here shows up in the browser tab. I'm talking about on your actual web page, on your website. On when people go to your website, the stuff they see in front of them right here, you see here on the right, H1 is going to be used as the main title tag, and every web page can only have one H1, and that's important to note. So if you're taking notes, like, that's important. You can't have multiple H1 tags on your web page. You can have multiple H2 through 6, but there should only be one H1 tag on your web page. All right, here, let's just copy this and let's create our H6 tag. So copy this and change that 3 to a 6, and then save. Remember to save, always save your changes, and then come here and refresh, and boom, you see how the H6 is very small. H7 and 8 doesn't exist. If you come here, let's see what happens if you try to change this to a H8. You know, I've actually never done this before, so I'm gonna learn what happens right here with y'all. So save this and let's see what happens. It just displays as just regular text. It doesn't have that bold that the headings have, right? So it basically doesn't display correctly in the right format because H8 is not a valid heading tag. It's only H1 through 6. So let's change this back. All right, boom. So now we can refresh and you see it has the right format. So basically the format of the heading tags includes them being bolded as well. All right, so now that we know our heading tags, the next most important tag that you have to know is the P tag. So P stands for paragraph tag. Now the P tag, even though I'm saying paragraph, The P tag is used to just simply display text. Most of the text that you see on websites that you go to is the P tag that's displaying that. All right, so let's go to the browser and open a new tab and just Google HTML P tag. So HTML P tag, just so you can see what's going on. And again, I'm going to click on this W3 Schools resource here. So you see a paragraph is marked up as follows. You see, this is just simply you writing P. You have your opening P tag and your closing P tag, and then the text that you want to show inside of it, right? The P tag defines a paragraph. And keep in mind, it tells you right here, browsers automatically add a single blank line before and after each P element. And I'll show you that in a second, right? But let's add our own P tag here. So I'm just going to put my opening P and my closing P, and I like to put a space and just type out my text like that. So this is my P tag. You can write anything that you want here. So I'm going to save this and then go back to my web page and refresh, and boom, you see, this is my P tag. And here, let me put a second P tag. This is my second P tag. And let me save this. So you see how this shows up on different lines. It doesn't show up on the same line. If you want the text to show up on the same line, then the text has to be written inside of the same P tag. So I'm writing more text here. I'm going to refresh this, and you see that shows up here. And I know some of you might be asking, what if I put a space? So if I come here, I just put a space. You see all this space here, this like white space? This doesn't mean anything. Because if I save this and I refresh, do you think that this, I just put a space, it's going to show up underneath? Or you think it's going to show up on the same line? If I come here and refresh, boom, it shows up right there. All right. If you want to put a space like actual line break, you have to use a different tag for that. And that's called the BR tag, or let's just Google line break. So I'm going to type HTML line break. And boom, it tells us we have what's called a BR tag. So if I go to the W3 Schools, as a matter of fact, the resource you're seeing, the MDN web docs, this is the official HTML documentation. All right. But I like using the W3 Schools documentation instead. So if I click on the HTML one, so you see here, insert single line breaks in text. You see how you have your opening P tag and you have your closing P tag at the very end here. And then anywhere that you want to insert a line break, that's where you put your BR tag. And the BR tag, I don't know if you noticed it, but the BR tag only has an opening tag. It doesn't have a closing, right? You see down here, the BR tag inserts a single line break. And this is very important. You see, the BR tag is an empty tag, right? Empty meaning you don't put content inside of it. Because remember, most HTML tags, you have your opening tag and your closing tag, and the content goes between it. But what content are you putting inside of a BR tag? None. You're just using it to create a line break. So that's why it's an empty tag. All right. So if I click the try it yourself here, just so we can see what this looks like. So try it yourself. Like always click on the examples, to help you better understand what the code is doing. You see, so they have a BR tag after force, and it creates this line break. And then another one after breaks creates this line break. So let's go try this ourselves, right? This is my P tag. Well, yeah, so you see, this is my P tag. I'm writing more text here. I'm going to put a BR tag right here. So this should now put this on a new line. So if I come, make sure you save, and I refresh, oops, boom. It now puts all of that, all the text underneath on a new line. All right, so that's the BR tag. All right, so let's talk about the next HTML tag that you have to know now. It's called the anchor tag, but really it's just a link. You know, like every single website you go to has a link. Like websites, you know, the crazy thing, I don't know if you ever thought about it. Most websites have the same thing on them. Some text, some kind of image, and links and buttons, right? Like most websites have the same information. So really, in terms of you like memorizing tags, you don't have to memorize hundreds of tags. You're going to be using a lot of the same tags over and over again. And the more that you use them, the more that you like know what to use, right? Like if I want to write text, I don't have to Google HTML p tag. I just know that, you know, like I've used it enough that, oh yeah, when I want to write just regular text, I'm going to be using a p tag. When I want to write some type of heading, I'm going to be using, you know, one of my H1 through H6 tags. All right. Let's look up HTML link or HTML anchor. It's called an anchor, like a ship anchor. HTML anchor tag. So HTML anchor tag. All right, so this is the HTML A tag. So it's just A, like we have the P tag. Now this is going to introduce a different aspect of HTML that we haven't talked about yet, and that's HTML attributes. So if you look at this example, this is how you create a link in HTML. You have your opening A tag. You see, you have your opening A tag, and you have your closing A tag. And something you notice is this right here. Inside of our opening tag, we have this href. Now this is called an attribute because, you know, we have an HTML tag and we're adding additional information to it. The additional information we're adding is an attribute, right? Like I'm a human being and I have braids. Braids is an attribute of me. You know, that example sounded a lot better in my head, but hopefully like you get what I mean, right? An attribute is how we add additional information. So some tags that require additional information, they have attributes specified and created for those tags. So that's why I'm having you Google these tags with me so that you can see if a tag has an attribute. The P tag doesn't need any additional attribute. The A tag is how we create links in HTML. So if you're going to create a link, you know how when you go to a website, it says click here. If I click here, it takes you somewhere, right? So how do you specify where that link goes to? Well, with the anchor tag, it has a href attribute, href attribute that you use to specify where the link should go to. So if we go here, you know, just to kind of read this, the A tag defines a hyperlink, which is used to link from one page to another. The most important attribute of the A element is the href attribute, which indicates the link's destination. All right. And I'm sure that you've noticed all these things online. I'm sure that you've clicked on a link, and unvisited link is underlined in blue. I'm sure you've seen that online somewhere. Whenever you click on a link, it's purple, and active link is red, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Like it's all HTML. And if you scroll down some more, you'll see all the other attributes that you can use with an HTML tag. So the most important attribute for a link, an anchor tag, is the href, point blank, right? So here, let's say we are going to create our own link, right? So remember, it's just create your opening and closing A tag. Just so A, boom. And I'm just going to put click here to go somewhere. All right, save that, and let's go back to our web page and refresh. Boom, click here to go somewhere. Right now, this is not underlined. It doesn't look like a link right now, right? So let's go inside of our A tag, and after the A, put a space. You see how I put a space? Put a space and type href, and then equal, and then quotation marks. So between the quotation marks is where we're going to write where our link should go to. So let's say that I want this link to go to my website, right? rootstechnologies.info. So I'm going to go to my website, and then I'm going to click on this link. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to come in here between the quotation marks and paste it. Paste. So this is the URL for my website. All right. This is the URL for my website, and I copied it from here. the reason why I copied it instead of typing it, because I mean, obviously, come on. I know the link to my own website. I know it's rootstechnology.info. But the reason why I copied it is because you need this HTTPS like this. You need this information there. All right. So the easiest thing to do is to just copy the actual link that you need from this URL bar up here. All right. Because that'll have all the information that you need. So I'm going to exit out of there. I'm going to come here and save. And now I'm going to refresh this. It now looks like a link, right? It doesn't look like just text. You know, when I put my mouse over it, you know, it actually changes from a pointer to like I'm clicking something, like a finger that's clicking something. So if I click this, is it going to go to my website? I don't know. Let's see. So let's click this. And boom, it goes to my website. So you just created a link. That's how you create links in HTML. But let's go back to our web page. HTML has another attribute that's very important. You know how sometimes when you click on a link and that link opens up in a new tab, but you see when I clicked on this one, like it changed the tab we were in to the link. It didn't open in a new tab. That's why I have to go back to my web page. But if you want to open a link in a new tab, which is a common thing you see online, let's see how to actually do that. So you go here and, you know, you can kind of read the different attributes. The attribute we're looking for is target. Specify where to open the link document. So target blank. So if you click on this, so I'm just going to click on target. Target blank opens the link in a new window or tab. So if we want to open our link in a new tab, we use target underscore blank. You see, this is the actual syntax here. Target is an attribute equal underscore blank. So attributes go inside of the opening tag, and the opening tag can have more than one attribute. So don't get confused by that. You can have multiple attributes in the opening tag. So if I want this link to open up in a new tab, I'm just going to go to the end of this one. Yeah, you can either write it at the end here, or you can write it at the beginning here. You can't put it here, you know. You can't do a target. Like, no, you have to actually put a space, because this is the name of the tag. So if you do like this, there's no tag called a target, right? So you have to put a space there. So target equals quotation marks and then underscore blank. So remember, you can have this at the front here, or if you want, you can have it here at the end. It doesn't matter. As long as it's inside of the opening tag, that's all you need. So I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to refresh this. Always refresh when you make changes. So now if I click on this, it should open up to my website in a new tab. So click on it. Boom. You see, it opens up a new tab and goes to my website. So my original web page is still here. All right. Like the href and target, those are the most important attributes you need to know for the anchor tag. So anything else, you can just kind of Google that. You know, anything else that you're trying to do, you can just play around with all these different attributes. You know, you can like click on them to see examples of how to actually use them. But now we need to move on to the next HTML tag that you need to know. And that is the image tag. Remember, almost every website has the same type of information on it: text, links, images, and buttons. And I'm going to be covering that with you today. So how do we add images? Well, let's Google HTML image, right? So HTML image. And this is going to show you HTML images, right? So click on the W3 Schools link. And how do we add images? You see it's showing you this IMG tag, HTML images syntax. So the HTML IMG tag is used to embed an image in a web page. Images are not technically inserted. Images are linked, and the link creates a holding space, blah, blah, blah. So remember, this is important too. The image tag is empty. It contains attributes only and does not have a closing tag. Remember, empty tags don't have a closing tag. And if you think about it, remember you have the opening tag, the closing tag, and then you write the content between it. You don't write an image, right? An image is typically a file that you reference. It's typically a file that you reference. So here, the image tag has 2 required attributes. Very important. 2 required attributes. The SRC specifies the path to the image. So this is the URL to the image. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways to get images. The alt, ALT, specifies an alternative text for the image. So this is important. Have you ever been to a website, the image didn't load? You know how it basically gives you that? I'll just show you. All right. This is the syntax. This is how you write an image tag. You have your image tag, and then you put the SRC attribute, then you put the URL to the image that you're trying to display. And then the alternative text. So the alternative text is just, like a short amount of text that you type that describes what the image is, right? So if I have an image of a red apple, my alternative text would just say red apple. And this is important because you have to understand people that are visually impaired, they still surf the web. And they're able to surf the web because of HTML. So they use these devices called screen readers. A screen reader calls out the name of the tag to the person, and so if they get to an image, right, like here, it'll say a P tag and then read the content of the tag to them. So when they get to an image tag, it'll say image and it'll read whatever you type in the alternative text. All right. And I think, that's here. So you see the required alt attribute provides an alternative text for an image if the user for some reason cannot view the image, whether either they have a slow connection or if the file is corrupt or if the user uses a screen reader. So you see the value of the alternative attribute should describe the image. All right. So you see here they have an image and this alt flowers in I thought that said China at first. I can't read. So if I Chania, flowers in Chania. I don't know what that is. But if you click try it yourself, let's go see what that is. Chania. I'm guessing Chania is a place. Yeah. So you see this is the actual image and that. But let's see something. So this is the name of the image file, right? Image_Chania.jpg. What if I change the name to just something random? So obviously this doesn't exist. What do you think is going to happen? Right? That file doesn't, I just banged on my keyboard, right? And I hit run, boom. This is what is going to show, right? Flowers in Chania is going to show, what we meant to show was the image we meant to display was flowers in Chania. So that's the purpose of the alternative text. If something happens to the file, or if the internet connection is broken, or if the person is visually impaired and they're using a screen reader to surf the web, the screen reader will read out that alternative text. All right. So that's very important. And I'm sure you can see here some of the other attributes like width and height. So you can kind of play around with that on your own to just kind of figure that out. But you can use this to adjust the size of the image. All right. So let's add our own image. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways to add images. If I go back, the first way I'm going to show you how to add an image is using an image you find online, like an online image. We're going to just find a random image online and add that. And then I'm going to have a file. I'm going to show you how to get a file, image file working on your computer. Okay. So you can Google any image you want, but I'm going to Google red apple, right? I don't know. Red apple. I'm just going to Google red apple. All right. So I'm going to go to images, right? You click images. Then I'm just going to click on something random. Now, this is important. We need the link to the image. So I'm going to put my cursor on this image and I'm going to right click. And you see here, it says open image in new tab. You see that? Open image in new tab. So I'm going to click that and it goes to the image. Boom. You see it gives me a .jpg URL. So this is a URL. You see https .com, blah, 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 blah. Like this image has been uploaded online. So this is the URL for the image. All right. So this is a red apple. So I'm just going to copy this because I need this URL. So now let's go back into our code and let's put a space. And remember, the image tag is an empty tag. So let's put our img tag, and it uses a source attribute, src, right? The source of the image. So src equals quotation marks, and this is where we put the URL. So now you can just paste this URL here. So paste. Damn, that's a long URL. So you see that? Image src equals quotation marks, and it links to the apple. It links to the image of the apple. And remember, we need the other attribute, right? And that attribute is called the alternative text attribute, alt. So alt equals quotation marks a red apple. You know, just write something that briefly describes the image. It doesn't need to be a long paragraph or something. Just, you know, a few words that describes the image. So save this, and then I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna just exit out of this stuff. I don't need it no more. And I'm gonna come to my web page. This is my web page, and refresh. We should see an apple. You see this big old apple here at the bottom now? Right, like this big apple. Why does the apple have freckles? Yeah, so this big apple now is shown on our page. And what if I got the URL wrong? Remember that the alternative text thing, right? So what if I come here, I just type something random. I save it, refresh, boom. You see that? A red apple, right? Like it's gonna show that broken image icon, and then the alternative text displays. All right, let me fix that. And we can play. We'll talk about the width and height stuff later when we start doing CSS, because that's what you use to style HTML. But if you want, you can play with those attributes on your own here. But to move forward, I'm just gonna show you how to work with the actual file on your computer. You know, if you have an image file on your computer. So let me go here. I'm gonna open up a new tab and go to this actual image. Yeah, so this is this image now. And I'm gonna right click on it and save image as. You see here, save. I'm gonna save image as. I'm gonna save it as a red apple on my computer. Red apple. So now if I go, you see here, like this apple, right? So this is an image file, right? This is an image file now on my computer now. So if you want to use this image file inside of your website, this file has to be inside of your folder. All right. So you just put it there. Let me do it differently. You just take whatever files you want and you put it inside of your folder. And if you look here in your text editor, boom, you now see that that image file is inside of your HTML project folder. So now if we come down here to our image, we can delete this. We don't need this anymore. And we can now just type the name of the file. So red apple.jpg. Like you have to type the exact name of the file. You can't create random nicknames, right? It needs to know the name of the file. So red apple.jpg. Don't write red apples, red apple.jpg. Save that, and then let me come back here, and if I refresh, boom, it's still there. I mean, because if I delete this and I refresh, it's gone. But if I undo and save that, refresh, boom, we still have our apple. All right. So those are the two ways that you can add images, either using a URL, you know, if you have the image uploaded on Google Drive or something like that, and it gives you actual URL link, you can reference that link in the SRC, or you can upload the file directly and put it inside of your project folder and go from there. All right. All right. So now that we know how to add images to a website, we have a couple more tags to go, and you will know all the basics you need to kind of just work with HTML now. The next HTML tag or element that we are going to learn about is list, right? Like how do we create lists? if you open up a new tab here, if you open up a new tab and you Google HTML lists, then I'm gonna click on this W3 Schools link, and you are gonna see that HTML has two different types of lists. An unordered list, you see here, an unordered HTML list, it just has bullet points, or an ordered list that's numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So the unordered list, it starts with the UL tag. The UL stands for unordered list. So you see here, you have your opening UL tag and your closing UL tag, and then you have your LI tags inside of it. So you basically, each list item starts with the LI tag. So the LI tag stands for list item. So anytime you want to create a list, you have to tell the browser what type of list it is. Is it an ordered list or an unordered list? And the difference here, right, between the unordered and ordered, the ordered list is OL, right? It uses an OL tag, the opening and closing OL tag, and then inside of it you have your opening and closing LI tags for your list items. All right, so let's create our own list now. So we're going to create an unordered list, but let's put our list before the image. Okay, so we're going to do our opening UL tag and our closing UL tag. We're going to start with an unordered list. So, and then when we want to add a list item, we need the LI tag. So your opening and closing LI tag. You can write anything here. So I'm just going to put item 1. And then I'm going to create another LI tag underneath it, LI item 2. And then I'm going to go back to my web page and I'm going to refresh, and boom. You see my list now? So this is my unordered list. If I want to create an ordered list where it has numbers, it's literally the same thing. I'm going to copy this example since we already have this up here. Copy, and I'm going to paste this. I'm going to change this UL to O. Changes U to an O, so it's now OL. Remember, OL stands for ordered list. I'm gonna save this and refresh, and you see it's now numbered. That's how you create lists in HTML. So something that you should know by now, or just kind of based on all these examples that we went through, is once you know the tag that you need for the type of information you're trying to add, it's pretty straightforward now figuring things out. Because you're going to have an opening tag or a closing tag, and a closing tag, and your content goes in between. And, you can use Google to make sure you have the syntax, make sure you're writing the code correctly. As long as the code is correct, everything is going to work, right? So this is how we create lists in HTML. Now, the last tag I'm going to show you, this is it. This is the end of the main HTML tutorial. The last tag I'm going to show you is the button tag, right? Almost every website has a button on it. This is actually going to be very easy. Button. Yeah, that's the name of the tag. So let's just Google HTML button. So boom, HTML button tag. And you see here, this is it. It's just that button. It's literally called button. You have your opening button tag and your closing button tag, and you see, but it has a type attribute on it. So let's go look at the types. You see the type attribute, there are different values. You can have button, reset, submit. So whenever it's a button that you want, you just use type equals button. We'll talk about the submit later on when we go over HTML forms, but we're not going to cover forms in this tutorial. So let's create our button, and I'm going to put this after the list, before the image, because the image is big. You can put the width and height stuff to kind of make it smaller on your own, but I'm not doing it right now. So let's do the button tag, your opening and closing, and then remember to add your type. The type is button. And this is my button. You write your content between the opening and closing tag. So save that. Go to my web page, refresh. You see, it now looks like a button. Boom. Looks like a button. Now, if you want this to be clickable, you can actually wrap this, or you can put an A tag inside of this. Now, in terms of making this clickable to where, you can actually click the button and it goes somewhere, we're going to be using JavaScript for this. So this is going to come later on. But if you are working with a form though, right? You remember the type, it can be a submit button. So when you click it, it's going to submit the form. But we're going to cover that in a later thing. All right. So basically, that's it. Like, these are HTML fundamentals. These are the things that you actually need to know in terms of making sure that you have a basic understanding of how to use HTML. And all right, so that's it. Like, these are the HTML fundamentals that you need to know to make sure that you have a good understanding of how to use HTML. Because from now on, you basically know enough to kind of figure things out on your own moving forward in terms of any type of HTML element that you want to add. All right, so these are the HTML fundamentals that you need to understand to make it a lot easier for you to just kind of move forward building anything else. Now, keep in mind, HTML does not get more complex than this. This is it. All right, so don't be scared that, HTML is just going to get so much harder. No. This is it. In HTML, you have opening tags, a closing tag, and you write the content in between. Some tags don't have a closing tag. It's just an opening. And some tags have attributes on them. And when you know the attribute that you need for the tag, you just put that information there and boom, you're done. These are the basics that you need to know to understand HTML. So hopefully you now feel like you have a better understanding of just basic HTML. All right, on to the next tutorial. Let me tell you how learning to code changed my life. I went from making $37,000 a year and living paycheck to paycheck to my first job as a software engineer paid me $75,000 a year. That's almost double what I was making before. So now I don't have to fly Spirit Airlines all the time anymore, and I can actually afford a real vacation. And since I change jobs every 1 to 2 years, I started making 6 figures my 3rd year as a software engineer. That's what this career change can do for you. Now I have the skills to learn anything technical and get a job in a lot of different roles and industries because of my technical skills. So don't waste time putting off learning to code if you know you're interested in making a career change. Get started now so you can be ready to start applying to jobs soon. Come learn to code with me as your mentor at rootstechnology.info.